Let me explain what's really happening in Venezuela, because most people only hear half the story. Venezuela is one of the most resource-rich countries on Earth. It has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, even more than Saudi Arabia. On paper, Venezuela should be extremely wealthy, but instead it's one of the biggest humanitarian and economic crises of our time. So how did this happen? For years, Venezuela has been ruled by the government of Nicolás Maduro, who took over after Hugo Chavez. Over time, Maduro's government was accused of rigging elections, silencing opposition, corruption, and human rights abuses. Many countries, including the US and most of Europe, stopped recognizing his elections as legitimate. Because of this, heavy international sanctions were placed on Venezuela, especially targeting oil, which is the country's main source of income. Oil makes up over 90% of Venezuela's export earnings. When sanctions hit, the government lost access to money, markets, and spare parts needed to keep oil production running. But sanctions weren't the only problem. Inside the country, years of mismanagement, corruption, and overspending had already weakened the economy. The government printed massive amounts of money to cover debt, which caused hyperinflation. At one point, prices were doubling every few weeks. People needed bags of cash just to buy bread. Food and medicine became scarce. Hospitals collapsed. Electricity and water systems failed. Salaries became almost worthless. Doctors and teachers were earning the equivalent of just a few dollars a month. That's why over 7 million Venezuelans have fled the country. Families walked across borders into Colombia, Brazil, Peru, and beyond. This became one of the largest migration crises in modern history. Not because of war, but because daily life became impossible. Meanwhile, the government stayed in power using the military, police, and armed civilian groups called colectivos to control protests and opposition. Right now, Venezuela is stuck in a dangerous balance. On one side, you have a government holding on to power. On the other, a population that's exhausted and struggling. And in the middle, foreign powers debating whether to keep sanctions, lift them, or intervene to stabilize oil and regional security. Some sanctions have been partially eased to allow oil sales again, but the average Venezuelan hasn't felt real relief yet. Inflation is still high, wages are low, and trust in the political system is broken. So here's the real takeaway. Venezuela is not poor because it lacks resources. It's poor because of political failure, corruption, and global power struggles. A country rich underground, but its people are paying the price above ground. If you want more world events explained simply, follow for part 2.